3, 2. Welcome to this exciting kickoff for the greatest free photography course on the internet. My name is Christopher, and I'm so thrilled that you're here as we embark on this journey together. Whether you're a total beginner looking to master the basics or someone with some experience wanting to sharpen your skills, this course is designed with you in mind. Today's session is all about giving you a sneak peek into what this course is all about, why I created it, or should I say, why I am creating it, and most importantly, how it can help you become a more confident and creative photographer. We'll talk about what topics we'll cover, how the lessons will be delivered, and what tools you'll need to follow along. And here's the best part. This course is absolutely free. You heard that right. My goal is to make high quality photography education accessible to anyone, anywhere. So stick around, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into the world of photography. I also want to hear from you. So drop your questions and comments in the chat, and I'll answer them throughout the session. So let's get started. First, I want to introduce myself. I am Christopher St. Germain. I am a six-figure photographer. In reality and in my mind, I'm a seven-figure photographer because the work that I do for another company, I realized that if I did that work on my own, I would be a seven-figure photographer. So creating this course is part of that. And also, I upload about 10,000 images a year to a platform that gets 1 million views per month. I don't have my name on any of those images. So if I took those images or similar images and added them to my own platform and think about how large my platform would be at the end of the year, then I would be a seven-figure photographer. So my goal is in teaching you how to utilize photography to build your career, then I'm going to be able to learn from you as I build my career. Now, I believe that it doesn't matter what you do in the world, photography will help you to improve. So if you're a carpenter or you're an artist or you're a lawyer, it doesn't matter what field you're in, photography will help you improve because it's going to teach you a different way to see, a different way to focus on things, and it's really going to give you a different view on life. Now, all of those might sound canny or cheesy to photography speak, focus on life, things like that, but it really does change the way your brain works. In fact, I was a helicopter mechanic for 18 years in and out of the Army, and one of the things that changed for me was the first time I flew a drone, it taught me to see from that same aspect as when I had been flying in the helicopter earlier. And I had never thought of photography in that manner before until I saw it on the controls of the drone, and I had to look at photography a completely different way. There was a shift in my brain that enabled me to see photography from a different perspective. So one of the things that I want to do while we're here is I want to show you a little bit of what my studio looks like. So this is my studio. I'm streaming it from my cell phone. It's in the room right next door to me. And it's very simple. So I've got this board set up on some sawhorses here. I've got another camera in that right-hand corner that you can see. It's got a big mask around it because it is a teleprompter, so I can see things while I'm recording. Obviously, I'm not using it right now, but it will help me to streamline the work that we're looking at when we're creating the course so that I don't get lost. And in a minute, I'm going to go through everything that the course is going to cover. So you'll also see that there's a green screen back there. There's some magic that you can do with a green screen. I like this board on top of the sawhorses because it's portable. If you're going to do food photography or you're going to do product photography and you need to move it around from space to space to be able to take pictures in maybe the restaurant or the space where the product is made, this is an easy setup that you can throw in the back of your car, take it with you, knock out some pictures while you're there. If you want a different background entirely, you can utilize that green screen to magically change the background. And I've done some videos here on YouTube about the magic of green screen before. So if you want to go back in the channel, you can look at some of those. So I am going to figure out how to switch back to my face. There we are. Hi. And talk a little bit about what the course is going to be. Can I hide this camera now? There we go. All right. So I'm going to go through some of the things that we are going to cover in this course. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it is more of a framework that I put together in my head and using AI with ChatGPT to be able to kind of organize everything, put it in order, and put it in a reasonable order. So my goal is to get you making money with photography as quickly as possible. In saying that, this course is not for everybody. Some people just want to take pictures of the ocean or birds, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking to earn money with photography, that's what this course is driving towards. And also, this course is going to be geared towards somebody who has a very special resource that not everybody has. And that very special resource is time, because to be able to practice your camera work, to be able to reach out to people who need you to do the work for them, they need you to do the work for them because they don't have time. So they're going to utilize your resource and pay you for it because you do have time. So how does that narrow down sort of the audience of who this class is going to be created for? First of all, it could be teenagers or 20-somethings who are just getting into the career field because they should have more time on their hands if they've just gotten out of school, or maybe they're still in school, but they have those hours around school, like early college years when you have your weekends available to you, or you're taking classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but you've got Tuesday and Thursday available and your classes are either morning or night. So you can work your schedule around what your photo shoots are going to be. And then the other side of that coin is the retired people who are more around my age as I'm getting ready to retire. And they have gone through life, maybe working their entire lives, and want to have a more artistic field to reach into, something to kind of broaden their horizons and yet be able to still do something artistically and earn money at the same time. So I'm looking at the earning money side of using your camera, and I'm looking at utilizing the spare time that you have to be able to earn that money. So we'll talk about that more in the future lessons. This is going to be maybe even a year long to be able to get all of these courses out to you. My intention is to do every one of them live in that studio, or we'll be on site doing different types of photography, architectural photography, real estate photography, product or restaurants. Maybe we can be on the ground while we're doing that, and then we won't be in this studio, but we'll be out there utilizing that setup for those photo shoots. To be able to create a all-inclusive course that's going to go through everything you need to know about photography, it's going to take a while. So these courses are going to be weekly. I'm going to put them out live. I'm going to answer your questions, and that's going to help me build the final course, which is going to be a year from now after all of these live courses are finished, us working together to create a better course, answering your questions, or learning new things as I grow, because I'm constantly learning things as well. In fact, right now I'm going for my PPA, that's Professional Photographers Association certification. So that's a stepping stone that we can talk about later, where you go once you have gotten established in your career. So some of the things that we're going to touch on in this course is obviously the basics of photography. So we're going to talk about white balance. We're going to talk about the exposure triangle. We're going to talk about depth of field. We're going to talk about the inverse square law. Don't let any of this scare you if you've never heard of it before, but we're going to go over each thing step by step so that you have awareness of what these things do for you. And then we're going to start with cell phone photography, because I imagine that anybody who is watching this right now probably has access to a cell phone. So how are you going to take that cell phone and turn it into a resource that can earn money for you? That's one of my big goals with this course, is getting you started with your phone, going out, taking pictures, earning money, so that you can maybe invest more in your business, get better gear, like maybe a drone we were talking about a minute ago, and expand your business so that you can earn more money, so you can buy more gear, so you can expand your business, so you can earn more money. It's a vicious cycle. This is the cycle I've been in for more than a decade now, and I'm willing to impart my knowledge to you. So cell phone photography, we're going to talk about the basics of cell phone photography, composition for mobile photos, editing photos on mobile apps, cell phone real estate photography. That's a real big goal of mine. We will be on site for that. Cell phone videography for social media. As far as real estate photography goes, also the reels are getting super popular, and you can easily create those with a cell phone. In fact, the cell phone is probably preferred for creating those because they're already in the aspect ratio, the proportions of how the cell phone lines up with YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, so that when you create the videos, they're ready to post. As soon as they're edited, they can go. We're going to talk about advanced mobile photography techniques and editing, whether it's editing through your cell phone or taking your cell phone footage and moving it to the computer so you can edit there. There are great options for both. So that is going to be the first portion of the course. Now, once you have earned some money with your cell phone photography, we're going to talk about moving up to what's called a DSLR, which is a digital camera. I have several of them around here. I don't want to get into showing you everything just now. That'll probably be the next photo where I go through all of the gear, what I have accessible to me and what it does. And then we will do sort of more granular, like comparing different types of tripods or different types of gimbals and how they work for you. And do you want to get a low-end piece of equipment to learn on and then buy a high-end piece of equipment, or do you want to go straight into the high-end piece of equipment right away? So if you've earned maybe $1,000, just throw that number out there, using your cell phone, doing photography for somebody, and you want to invest in some different gear. I'm not going to say that a DSLR is better than a cell phone, but I will say that it enables you to do things that a cell phone won't enable you to do. So once you have expanded your abilities enough with your cell phone to move up to a new piece of equipment, then we'll start looking at DSLR cameras. And we'll talk about what sort of camera you want to buy, how low-end cameras compare to high-end cameras. I'll show you all of my cameras and talk about the camera that I first started on, which I still have, and compare that to the cameras that I have now. What's the difference in those cameras? What's the difference between a DSLR camera and a mirrorless camera? You're going to learn these things. And it's all going to be open for you, and it's all going to be live. So jump on, ask questions. With the DSLR camera, we'll talk about DSLR basics, shooting in manual mode and what that means. I don't necessarily like to jump into manual mode right away. I like to walk you through it. So there are different modes on the camera. In fact, the lower end your camera is, the more pictures it'll probably have on top of the dial. And each of those pictures is a different mode, but they are still auto mode, which is pretty much what your cell phone shoots on, is mostly auto mode. So when you move up to the DSLR, we want to learn to use some of the other modes, which is aperture priority or shutter priority, and then move to manual mode. And I'll talk about how you can use each of those modes to move into manual mode so that you will understand where you're going with it and why. In fact, I mostly shoot in aperture mode because as an architectural photographer, I need a certain depth of field, and the aperture controls the depth of field. So I keep my camera on that aperture as I move through my day, and the camera changes all of the other settings. So it's doing sort of half manual mode and half auto mode. We'll talk about portrait photography with a DSLR. We'll talk about real estate photography with a DSLR. We'll talk about creating professional videos and tips for what you need to do in low light situations if you don't have enough ambient light around you and you still need to take a photo or a video. What can you do in that situation? That's looking towards week 2. It depends on how long each of these bullets break out. If DSLR basics ends up taking an entire week, then it'll be a couple of weeks for that section. Then we can move on to one of my favorite things about my job, and that's drone photography. As I said earlier, I was a helicopter mechanic, and flying that drone for the first time gave me the same feeling as riding in a helicopter did, which I hadn't felt for a couple of years at that time. So it was very exciting for me to just kind of be in control and decide where I wanted to fly, what I wanted to see. So we'll talk about drone photography. We'll talk about the rules and regulations. We'll talk about if you're going to earn money with your drone, you have to have a Part 107 pilot's license. So we'll talk about how you get that. I'll point you to some study materials for that. And then once you have that, you can earn money with your drone. You don't have to have the Part 107 license to fly a drone. You have to register as a hobbyist. You register your drone, it costs like $5 a year. And then as you're practicing, you can be preparing for the Part 107 drone license. We'll talk about creating cinematic drone videos and being able to edit your drone footage, photos, and video. So that, I'm going to call it week 3, but it sounds like that will be a lot more than a week. And that's why I'm saying this could take up to a year of YouTube lives to be able to put all of this out. All right. Architectural and real estate photography will follow that, because once you have mastered your cell phone, you have mastered your DSLR, you've mastered your drone, you're ready to step into, let's call it the big leagues, and offer your services to people who are more regular real estate, Airbnb architects, maybe interior designers. And if you don't want to go to the architectural route, we can do restaurants, we can do product photography, we can do baby photography, we can do infant photography, I should say, family photography, portraits. So once you've learned the basics of your camera, then you will have the opportunity to choose sort of what path you want to go down to focus on your photography skills. I have gone the route of architectural photographer. That doesn't mean that all I do is take pictures of buildings. I've done headshots, I've done school photography, I do events, I've done weddings. That's a whole different ball of wax. So you have plenty of options open to you. I'm more of a cookie guy. You might prefer donuts over cookies. Doesn't mean that donuts are bad. Doesn't mean that cookies are bad. Doesn't mean I can't eat a donut once in a while. But you'll have options with your camera that can take you in any direction. And this is part of the reason why I say that learning photography can enhance your career no matter what your career is. After talking about architectural and real estate photography, we will talk about cinematography. So this is one of my favorite things to do, is create and craft an entire story, whether it's a story of a house or a building, or whether it's somebody's engagement, going down to the park and creating a story. There's so many options open to you to be able to create when you get into video. And when I first started taking pictures as a photographer, the first full frame camera I bought is a Nikon D800. I still have it. I think it's in the other room. And it's a fantastic portrait camera. Takes beautiful photos. 46 megapixels, I think. We'll talk about megapixels and how important or unimportant those are in today's photography realm. But neither here nor there, it still takes fantastic portraits. It's a workhorse. It sucks at video. And when I first bought it, I said, I'm a photographer. I'm not a videographer. I'm never going to have to shoot photos with my shoot videos with my digital camera. So I'm getting this camera that specializes in portrait photography, and I'm not worried about video at all. And that lasted for about a year or two. And then video started really taking off. YouTube really started taking off then. And the quality of the video has just gotten increasingly better with each new camera release. So I now do video every day. I do video every day. I do pictures every day. I do video every day. And it's kind of 50-50 on which one I'm doing. Depends on the project, whether I'll do more video or more photos. But I do video now every day, and I never expected to do video. So having a good video camera built into your DSLR cell phone, doesn't matter at this point, is going to benefit you in the long run. So the following week will be advanced techniques, understanding lighting for photography, high dynamic range HDR photography, advanced composition techniques, long exposure photography, time-lapse and hyperlapse creations. Those are super fun. And post-processing mastery. So using Lightroom or Photoshop to be able to edit your photos, or your Premiere Pro for your videos, so that you can put everything together and create that story or emotional impact that you want to create with your work. Now, a lot of these things like HDR photography, we're going to touch on those in a lot of the earlier lessons. So this will be the portion that focuses specifically on that, but a lot of these things sort of intertwine with each other. So we will be able to talk about some of it leading up to this part of the course. And once we get to this part of the course, we will do a deep dive in each of those techniques. And that's going to get us to business marketing and how you really create a business from what you've learned so far. So we're looking at around week 6 or week 7 here, but you don't want to jump straight to the business portion. You want to really hone your skills. And I'll tell you, 6 weeks is not enough to hone your skills in photography to consider yourself a professional photographer. But you might have some background. This might not be your first day. So who knows? Maybe by week 6 or week 7, you'll be ready. The important thing to remember is that you always want to go back to the fundamentals. And so those previous classes will be available to you with each of these lessons. I'm going to leave them online. And like I said, I'm going to utilize each of these YouTube lives going forward with your questions and the feedback that we'll get in the chat below, that we'll be able to utilize each of those to improve the course. And then I'm going to take all of this and create a finalized course that I will use as a product in the future. It'll be a polished course. It won't be, me in my messy office with this fake green screen background behind me, or over there in the bedroom studio. I guess it's a spare living room. It's not really a bedroom, but my goal right now with this format is to be as transparent as possible, to answer as many questions as you have, and to be able to really create something that is going to benefit you in the long run. So we talked about editing and post-processing and utilizing both Photoshop and Lightroom and Premiere Pro to put all of that together. And then we can talk about photography for specific industries. I've touched on it already: food photography, event photography, lifestyle photography, luxury photography for high-end properties, architectural photography, product photography, things of that nature. And by the time we get to that, we're going to know better which direction we are going with the community. So as the community gets together, then we will be able to focus more on what your questions are. And also, speaking of community, to be able to release a community on YouTube, you have to have 1,000 subscribers. And right now we're creeping up on 600 subscribers. So if you hit that subscribe button, you won't hear me pander for subscribes once we hit 1,000, but the YouTube regulations are that we have 1,000 before we can create the community. And so I would like to build that as fast as possible so that we can serve more people. Let's see what else I got in my notes here. We're going to talk about gear maintenance, how to take care of your equipment, memory cards, drone maintenance, bags and storage. We're going to talk about the troubles with tripods. Tripods are a magical piece of technology that have been around since the invention of the camera. And there are good things about tripods. There are bad things about tripods. Getting a cheap tripod is probably not the best idea. I got a tripod when I first went on a photo tour. I decided to ride my Harley across the United States and take pictures all the way across. I got to the Grand Canyon, put my camera up on my cheap tripod to do a time lapse, and a big gust of wind came, blew my camera over, almost blew it down into the ravine. Fortunately, I didn't lose my camera over the edge. However, if I would have had a better tripod, that wouldn't happen. I broke my lens, which really stunted my options for photos as I completed my trip. And I had to get the lens repaired, and big long story in the rest of that. But long story short was, if I had just invested in a better tripod in the first place, none of that would have happened. So we'll talk about, I have some cheap tripods here. I have some expensive tripods here, and I have the in-between sort of middle of the road tripods. We'll talk about that and do a good comparison on that. We can talk about sliders. We can talk about gear, lighting. I've got different light sources. I've got constant velocity lights for video that you can use for photos. I've got strobes that you can use for photos, not so much for videos. I've got different modifiers, light boxes, things like that. And we can talk about how those work and what they do for you. Maintenance schedules and checklists, repair and troubleshooting, all the fun stuff, that keeps your gear running and ready to go when you're ready to use it. Let's talk about virtual tours. There are different types of virtual tours. There's a Matterport tour. There's a 3D Vista tour. There's Google Maps is sort of an example of a 3D tour. If you get to Street View, you can put Google Tours. You can put tours on Google Maps. You can do 360 spheres with your drone and add those into tours. We've got 3D Vista available to us, which allows you to do pretty much anything, which you don't need a special camera to take a 360 photo with 3D Vista. But I have 360 cameras, so we'll talk about how each of those work, or how using your DSLR or cell phone to create a 360 sphere can also be used through 3D Vista to create a really premier sort of customized product for your client. So that's virtual tours, Matterport tours, best practices, how to edit in Matterport. See, 3D Vista, I talked about that. And let's see, I think that's about the end of my notes. It's a lot. We're going to go through a lot, and I'm super excited to be able to share all of this information with you. I first started photography when I was in high school, and then the world happened. I joined the military. I couldn't really afford to get all of that film developed. I kept a big fishbowl on a counter when I'd get home from my little trips on the weekends or anything. I'd go out and take a bunch of pictures. I'd roll up the film because we didn't have digital in those days. I'd toss them in this big fishbowl, and when payday came, I'd dig one or two of those rolls of film out, and I'd go and get them processed. And I never knew what was going to be on those rolls of film, and I never knew what quality the images would be. I have some of those images still, so I could share some of those with you if you're interested in those. They weren't great. I was in my teens and 20s when I took those pictures, but it helped. It was a building block. But the point was that I couldn't really afford to keep taking as many pictures as I was trying to take. So I kind of grew away from it. And then once digital started happening and I had a cell phone that I could take those little postage stamp size pictures on, I started taking pictures again. I started enjoying it again, but I realized that they were really just snapshots, partly because of the quality of the cell phone in the late 90s, I guess, as opposed to what you could do with a film camera. And then partly because I wasn't utilizing the techniques that I had learned in high school to take these photos because I'd sort of forgotten about them. Photography is this really interesting blend of artistry and science that you can really learn what the skills are to take great photos, and you can train your eye to see the moments that are going to happen, and the more you spend with it, the better your photos get. So I finally said, you know what? I used to take great photos and I don't take great photos anymore. I'm going to get back into this. I'm going to learn it. And that was about 2011 or so. I transferred over to the National Guard and I went to school as a photojournalist for the National Guard. I spent about a year doing that and opened up my studio. And then I did school photography for 3 years, and love the students. They're awesome and amazing. The parents aren't always as awesome or amazing, but I was learning. So the whole time I'm, learning my craft, and I'm going out there and I'm doing it. The first week I did school photography, I accidentally earned $10,000. Not really knowing what I was doing at all. The school had invited me out and said, "Hey, would you be able to do this?" I was like, "Yeah, I got all the equipment. I've got the website. We can deliver the photos. Let's do it." So I went out there and I basically learned on the ground, and ended up doing that for 3 years. But it was a great opportunity, great learning experience, but not sustainable for where I was and what I was doing at the time. So when the opportunity presented itself to become an architectural photographer, I leapt at that opportunity, and I've been doing that ever since. Well, that's a lot, and I appreciate you sticking in there with me for this ramble, this rant, this introduction to where this photography course is going to go. And it's going to be like this. It's going to be, kind of off the cuff. And the point is that this is the rough draft for the course that I'm going to create. So I really appreciate you jumping on with me. God bless you. And if you have any questions, like I said, please post them below and let me know that this is going to be beneficial to you. All right. I appreciate you. God bless.